What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? Not me, but a medical resident who I met on rotation recently. One of the nicest guy the first ever met, super intelligent and hardworking, and training to be a trauma surgeon by humble as they come. He had been married for 2 years to his wife. One night he gets off a 30-hour call early and heads home to surprise his wife with some flowers and her favorite dessert. It was the anniversary of the day they first met, only to find her in bed with a random dude. He was so exhausted and confused, he didn't know what to do and just left and went back to the hospital. I saw him at 5 a.m., sitting in the parking lot, hunched over crying. He didn't even have his phone with him, he was just sitting there. Man, nothing breaks your heart more than seeing a grown man cry. It's not something you see often. We called his dad up and he came and picked him up. The guy ended up taking a leave from his residency. Turns out, it wasn't the wife's first time sleeping around. Hope he gets back on his feet, he will make an amazing physician. On family vacation, I picked up his phone because I was bored and the kids were playing on mine. Saw a message to some girl describing the sex he and I had the night before. Spent the rest of the vacation fighting via text while trying and failing to act normal. Friend of mine was hanging out with some guys at a bar and went home to chill with them. He asked how they knew my girlfriend at the time, realized she was a mutual friend at the bar. Guy said she was fuck buddies with his friend. My friend was confused and mentioned she was the girlfriend of a friend of his, me, to which his response was, "Oh, I hope you're not good enough of friends to have to tell him." Had a really close group of friends who would always prank each other. One of my mates found out the Facebook password of another, so while on Skype the whole call included myself. Logged into his Facebook account, being 7 people, to make a stupid status. At the same time, my partner of 5 years was messaging him on Facebook about how good sex was last night and about meeting up again. College girlfriend and we lived together for a year after I realized she would always have her phone on silent, or just plain ignore calls from Jennifer. One day I write down the number and call it a week later. It ends up being her other boyfriend who she had never broken up with before she came to college. Neither of us knew about each other and she had been visiting him when she went home to see her parents on some weekends and breaks. Broke up soon after and her mom said that sometimes you just have to accept things and how I owed her an apology for breaking up with her. It gets worse, but that was the gist. Mountain St. Augustine erupted in Alaska in 1986. They had to evacuate all planes out of Elmendorf AFB due to ash in the air. This sent my unit home from Korea 3 days early. I got home at 2 a.m. and there was a guy sleeping next to my wife in our bed. I just got off work after working the graveyard shift. I walk into my apartment with my fiancée riding some guy she met at a party on my futon, which they broke. I walked out with so much rage and broken feelings, I went to my car and cried. Came home early. They were fast enough to get dressed but not in a natural state of being, if that makes sense. It was obvious something was just going down. Very cliched, got walked in on and tried to play it cool, like you see in TV. I asked him to leave and he did. We argued, she tried to lie but soon confessed. It wasn't the first time she cheated, but it was the first time that I caught her in the act. Everything in the past was just texts and stuff. She said that she never slept with the other people and it was just pics and flirting. In retrospect, that may not be BS. We divorced, both remarried. Not friends by any stretch, but civil. Went to log into email and a suggested one that I didn't recognize popped up. I answered all his security questions, and reset his password to find emails between him and the neighbor. We were in therapy to recover from him cheating with her, and there they were waxing poetic about their love and when I'd be out of the house so they could be together. The actual horror story is that our 7-year-old daughter is the one who accidentally caught him originally by walking into our bedroom while I was at work. I returned from work on Xmas Eve. We had tickets to a festival which started the day before now, and I couldn't find the tickets anywhere after seeing them the month before. I decided to double-check the trash before we put it out for collection. I found a used condom. We lived on our own. Caught my now ex-husband. Something was way off. I was 6 months pregnant with our second child, and my best friend at the time was also off. Picked up his phone at 2 a.m. when it went off and found a secret password locked messenger. Go Messenger. Password was his birthday. Real winner. I found over 7K messages along with photos, some insinuating I was present with either one of them while they were messaging. I was upset and woke him up. He locked himself in the bathroom and pulled the attempted suicide card. There's another year of trying to work it out shenanigans after this incident, but I'm so glad that chapter in my life is over. Came back from a trip 4 hours early. Wife was supposed to be at work still. Opened the front door to see her sitting topless on the couch making out with a co-worker. He ran out the door, she ran into a bathroom and locked the door. Sat on that couch for about an hour because I couldn't think what else to do. Finally just up and left, so she could come out of the bathroom and put a shirt on. Me and my girlfriend were long distance, and she had a habit of going quiet sometimes. She'd been texting me for the last few weeks but had made excuses not to come visit. I went to a party that my friend had organized. I met a friend of his who told me he had a new girlfriend. I was surprised he hadn't mentioned her, so I asked who she was. This lady introduced me to my girlfriend. She'd told everyone that we broke up, and had been dating my friend for about a month. She didn't bother to tell me. Long story short, I suspected something for a few months. Like an idiot, I opened her phone while she was asleep and found exactly what I was looking for, like you always do when searching through someone else's phone. Even with all of the texts right there to see, she still lied about it multiple times. She eventually admitted to it but downplayed it heavily. She told me about 2 nights ago that he asked her out on a date, and she said I had to say no, and was visibly sad about it. In the process of getting a divorce now. Hurts like hell. One of my former co-workers loaded in a SD card with a scanned project file on it. He put it into the conference room PC we were treated to, naked pics of his wife fucking another guy. We were just stunned. This was in a senior budgetary meeting with the outside accountants and auditors. And he was sitting right there, and we were looking at his wife and another guy going at it. I reached over and shut the projector off. Nobody said anything. He got up and walked out and drove off in his car, left his phone and laptop sitting on the table. He wound up driving to his parents' house 3 states away. He was gone for a week. Dropped her off at home, went inside to use bathroom, found condom in the trash. We hadn't been using condoms for a bit. That one hurt for some time. She claimed, "It's not used, lol." What, as bad as I wanted to make a scene and call her everything possible, I just proceeded to leave the place and never looked back. Edit: condom had fluids inside of it. Unless it was a limited edition dildo that also spits out jizz, it was clearly not used on a sex toy, lol. I found out my ex-boyfriend, dated from 15-18, had been cheating on me when upon walking into the apartment he shared with his mother and two elementary-aged sisters. The youngest sister asked me, "When did you leave?" I asked her, "When was I here?" She responded, "You were here all night. I could hear you talking to X's name." I had not been there for 2 days at that point. I asked him what she was talking about and he blew bubbles for a few minutes before confessing. Good riddance. Went home and my husband wasn't home, which was weird for him at 8 p.m., when an hour earlier he had told me he was going home. Had a gut feeling, went to one of our female friends who he claimed was like a sister apartment. His truck is there. I knock. No answer. Try the door, it's unlocked. Walk into the living room, nobody there. Hear noises in the bedroom. Walk in and lo and behold, they're there. Tried to make it work over next couple of months, but I can't get past it. Didn't even want him to touch me. Divorced 4 years ago. A friend of mine literally walked in on his wife and another guy doing it on the sofa. I guess he just yelled, "What the f***," and ran out. Facebook was a real shit show for a few days, and she even had the gall to blame him back, "It's your fault I cheated." Luckily there were no children in that marriage and not much money to fight over. Had been on the road for work. Was supposed to be 10 days, got to go home a day early. Had a friend pick me up at the airport to surprise my wife and 2 children, 2 years and 8 months. Walked into my ex and her coffee friend snuggling on the couch with my kids in the same room. I was livid. Of course she denied everything. We split up weeks later. After a night of trying to keep up with my ex and her co-workers drinking, I call it a night. They stopped talking a few minutes later and the dog scratched at the door. I let the dog in and saw them making out on the couch. I watched for 10 minutes before they noticed me. They were taking the clothes off by then, and he was touching her favorite spots like he knew them well. No denying it by then. I am glad I knew. A tense conversation followed with the two of them. He left very drunk on a very cold night. She got a ride to her aunt's place and begged me to go look for him in the cold. Christmas Eve I went into the computer to find a photo for a last-minute gift. An ornament with a family photo I did for her as a tradition every year. Instead found a love letter from some guy at the gym to her. Then kept looking and found tons more. Over the next year, it just got worse and worse to a point you'd never believe. Gosh, that was a fun Christmas for me and our young children. After a week visiting friends in London, England, I flew back to Canada. I was supposed to do something with another group of friends when I got back. But plans fell through, so I drove the 4 hours home to the apartment we shared. She expected me home at 6 p.m. I'd been up for 30 straight hours and got home at 6 a.m., wanting nothing more than to fall into bed. There was an extra set of feet attached to some asshole when I walked in. Was on a very rare date night, kids at the grandparents' house. I'm looking extra cute, so didn't even want to carry a purse or my cell. Used his phone on the way to the restaurant to confirm our reservations. After eating, used his phone again to get the movie times via text. Saw a name in the frequently sent. Asked him innocently, "Who is Lisa?" He snatched the phone and said, "My coworker." 3 hours later and I'm throwing his clothes into his car after going online and viewing the hundreds of texts sent to several women. But still, I was a fool for love and opted to stay. I was with him my entire adult life, so I didn't know anything different. That was 2006. We had our 19th anniversary in January. My divorce was final in March. He got married to another one of his many affairs in June. I'm enjoying being unattached and becoming an empty nester as of this fall.